Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. This is episode 27 of Daily Update with Sridhar. Sridhar Tityalaji, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and good morning, sir.
So, sensational news in the morning today. Pfizer announces a breakthrough in their vaccine for COVID with some very high degrees of success. To know more about it, let's go straight to Sridharji. Sridharji, what has Pfizer's announcement mean, and would that mean that finally we have had a breakthrough on COVID?
It looks we got a breakthrough finally on COVID. It's a great news to wake up to your Monday morning amidst all the kind of chaos and confusion that the Pfizer and its German company BioNTech have announced that they have now got a vaccine which has found to be very effective in the clinical trial in more than 90% of the cases. And the trials are substantive in terms of the sample sizes. They've asked for an expedited FDA approval for testing in the market or for launching in the market. Usually, for FDA to approve, they need to have minimum 60 days of data and sufficient sample size for it to be formally approved. It looks like they have all those elements in place. They're also prepared to test it or use it in age group 16 to 85. So which addresses not only the youth part, but most importantly, the elderly who have been, in the early stages, at least one of the big victims of the COVID pandemic. Now, market gives a big thumbs up. While it was tepid overnight, it has opened up in a big way. The Dow is up 5% to 29,762. S&P is up around 3.5%. And then Dow futures is also up around the 3% mark. So the story is the market is giving a big thumbs up, recognizing that this is something that was that is what was needed. Right, the two things that were needed. One was the stimulus, and the second was the treatment for COVID, so people can start getting back and managing their lives normally.
Yes, indeed, and that's great news. What is the percentage of recovery from this vaccine, sir?
90%.
So 90% is very good. 9 in 10 people are going to overcome the effects of COVID rather quickly. Or rather, since this is a vaccine, that means that it is sort of like building your own immunity against COVID, isn't it?
It is. And all that requires is now for, there's also AstraZeneca in doing its work. There's Johnson & Johnson. Won't be surprised. Then we have the Covaxin from India, which is also in production. So all this implies is that the market that there is at last some kind of visible hope in terms of getting this vaccine medication into the market and for people to carry on their normal lives. So I think that's been one of the big impediments in terms of holding back the much more accelerated recovery. I mean, recovery itself in terms of the stimulus and its impact has been one of the most remarkable recoveries in the history of any types of either market crashes or pandemics. So this is only going to, I don't want to sound like a Republican, but the story is only going to say, I told you so, is what Mr. Trump is going to state, which is to say that there would be a vaccine in November, and that'll help to cure people, treat people, and we'll be back to normal. We do not need shutdowns, right? So therefore, that they can kind of spin the story. And one of the other criticism that has been leveled against Trump is, he's not for science, he's not for science, he's not for science. The fact that these trials is nothing but science rather than anything which is anti-science. So that also is also going to kind of below that theory that somehow he was anti-science. That was the thing that was being projected. Just to wrap up on the stimulus, if you give me a couple of minutes to extend this stream of thought, so we can wrap and then you'll have a transition point. Now that what's his name, Mitch McConnell, is now back at helm. So Mitch has basically stated there is no need for a larger stimulus. A smaller stimulus would do. This is on the back of a significantly improved unemployment numbers, which we saw last Friday, 651,000. So job recovery has been also accelerated. We have come down from over a million to progressively. Last week was 751,000, and today it is 650,000. So even on the job recovery stage, he's saying, look, we are doing well. So we should do what we call a targeted smaller stimulus rather than adding another $2 trillion of debt to adding another $2 trillion of debt, which is unwarranted at this stage, to be fiscally prudent.
And that's sensible on his part. Perhaps both parties knew that this was coming down the wire, which is why maybe the second stimulus talks slowed down. I don't know. I mean, these are all, again, theories that don't have much of credence on the ground. We don't know. So let's move on. So markets 5% up. I'm curious to see how Pfizer's own stock is going to do today. Perhaps it will have another 7-8% run up.
5.6%. Markets are up 5.6%.
And what about Pfizer's futures, sir? Can you update us on Pfizer's futures?
Pfizer is last I saw was Pfizer. Pfizer is up. It's certainly showing very small. It's $36.40. Pre-market was $36.99. It's only showing a small increase.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah. So it went up to 37. Now it's just kind of dipped a little bit, right? So therefore, I think that the day's range has been 36.09 to 36.72. So it's still not absorbed the kind of the great news. I'm sure we'll begin to see. As more data is announced, you may see an uptick in the moment. All biotech stocks will see an uptick. Pfizer, Eli Lilly, what's its name? Johnson and Johnson, then AstraZeneca. You may see all of these guys showing an uptick, based on this great news. By the way, let's not forget that we also have in India. They have got this co-vaccine. Which is being produced by Reddy Labs in Hyderabad, and I think that is also being tested and commercialized.
So overall, good news. The world was waiting for this, and I think that will help everybody say, okay, finally we can end this year on a positive note rather than the gloom and doom that seemed to have descended upon the earth sometime in March of this year. So let's move on to politics. I'm just curious, sir, about 6 or 7 states that are in battleground states. How many of those have been certified by the respective secretaries of state? Do you have any information on that, or are all of them yet?
I don't believe any has been certified as yet. And so we can wait for the certificate. I mean, it takes a little bit of time for that to happen. Only last week, the counting kind of started and finished. So I would assume that you will begin to see some certification process commencing this week, right? And both sides have to agree, and then eventually the secretary certifies and endorses the result, and then it is sent to House and Senate. I think which we covered that yesterday. But the news that is the new news that is making ground is that Trump and his campaign team have announced, commencing this week, a campaign-style rallies in support of the various cases that are being filed, in the battleground states. For example, in Pennsylvania, for example, in Arizona, for example, in Nevada. They're going to have, and I'm sure that they're taking it to, I mentioned Arizona and Nevada, Pennsylvania. Probably it will even go to Michigan and Wisconsin, these types of rallies, to reaffirm that there has been a voter fraud. They want to specifically highlight as well in the rallies, the notion of the dead people coming back and voting for Mr. Biden or for Mr. Trump in the elections, right? So it's going to be very melodramatic and as well as politically relevant in terms of making a statement, because the media has been consistently stating, well, there's no proof, there's no proof, there's no proof. There cannot be proof until such time they get data from the respecting polling stations and polling centers, right? So while that has happened, Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris, to a grand show in Delaware, they announced, thanked the voters, and they said it's time to heal. And they also acknowledged that there are 70 million people who voted for Mr. Trump, and we should not treat them as enemies. And they are Americans, so we all should heal and unite towards a common purpose. And their agenda was, to treat COVID as well as to get economy to get economy back on tracks, right? So these were the two kind of healing, COVID, economy, and let's celebrate that we brought about a change. So this was the theme of Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris. And Mr. Biden, consistent with his thematic, with his first priority being pandemic, he has set up a task force headed by Dr. Vivek Murthy, and who would look into what kind of remedial measures that needs to occur from this point onwards to treat the pandemic. And one of the first things that they have stated is mask. They're going to make wearing the mask leaving home mandatory.
Well, that's a good start. Whatever be the merits and demerits of it, at least in my area, Santa Clara County, wearing of masks in outdoor places has proved very effective. We were one of the first counties to contact COVID because of one cruise ship that landed in San Francisco, and almost everybody who got off of that cruise ship happened to be COVID positive. And when they reached home, then they became super spreaders. So this is all something that happened in, I think, late February, early March timeframe. And once the mask wearing became more voluntary than mandatory, but it became a standard procedure. Now, Santa Clara County has it well under control. Yesterday, I was outside on the streets, very, very high traffic going around. For a Sunday evening, there was a lot of traffic, lot of crowds in stores and so on and so forth, but everyone was wearing masks. So that was one feature that we saw common. So let's hope that this is the worst of COVID that is over, that is behind us, and let's look forward to a more prosperous 2021. But I want to kind of draw your attention to what is happening in world politics. Can you please give us a quick update on what is happening in Belarus?
Well, I think that the Belarus, against Leshchenko, the agitation continues, and more arrests have happened. The opposition now feels with Biden with a change in their minds, with Biden taking over. They've reached out to Biden to see whether he can intervene and help, in the resolution of this process. One is, unfair elections, very much kind of fascism type of a model, opposition, political suppression, and oppression, which has kind of dominated the Belarus politics in the recent past, right? So I think that's on the Belarus side.
And finally, tech update. We saw some statements from people like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, and now you can start seeing that almost all of the tech camp was firmly with the Democrats, isn't it, sir?
Well, I think we made this statement, and I think there was some kind of criticism in feedbacks or comment section. Where did we get the data? I think they can go back and look at the data. 98% of the universe of tech ecosystem is supportive of the Democrats. And they'd given the data, which is featured either in the CNBC article or the Yahoo Finance article, will explicitly list even the staff in these companies contributed significant amount of dollars to the cause of the Democratic Party, right? Since you come from California, you may probably be able to add more light to the campaign contributions to, for example, Ro Khanna, who is supposed to be the darling of the Silicon Valley, right? So therefore, there seems to be, a lot of support. And in fact, in the media, in the general right media, the theory is that this is a media-led, campaign and the media-led announcement of the result, which is little premature when there is being contested. So this seems to be. So to your point, Amazon CEO, Bill Gates, the Google CEO, all of them have reached out and expressed their congratulations to Biden and Harris team. Let's not forget Harris is from San Francisco, so she knows the ecosystem kind of quite well. There's also been, just to top up, that there's also been very cautious but at the same time warm support from Asia, Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron, stating that we have a long-term relationship and, the relationship should kind of continue. We also had tweet from Mr. Modi. So there is a general cautious but very positive support. And the word that is used in Asia is we will be back to the diplomatic kind of process. So you have the tech people, you have the business, you have the political leaders, all kind of aligning, which they have to do, by the way. There's a number, and the number says that it is Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris, and they went up to the, they acknowledged and they claimed victory, right? They claimed victory, notwithstanding the fact, Trump may be objecting to it, but certainly they claimed victory. So very, very positive, a cautious and positive endorsement.
Yes, indeed. And in the next few days, we will have some more excitement as this thing starts playing out in various states. Thank you once again, Sridhar ji, and we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you, Ji.